the naturalness of death, like life. When we don't feel that we should be the one to control it or to decide it, it opens us up to a beautiful place of really allowing ourselves to feel what it is that you are to feel. You have to know dark to know light. You have to know love to know loss. Part of the reason I missed you so much was because I was so loved by you. Part of the reason why I so wish you were here is I so loved our Saturday morning walk, and I felt an energy really strongly. If I do this right now, I can feel it. I feel it in my hand a lot. And it felt really strong. And in my head, I'm thinking, Ted.
Today's guest is Dr. Heather Browne. As a relationship expert, Dr. Heather Browne has worked with thousands of individuals and couples in psychotherapy. Specialties are couple communication and intimacy, grief and loss, spirituality and faith, and transforming lives into expressions of beauty and joy. Having a unique and powerful awareness that no one has the same reality, though we believe we do, Dr. Heather Browne, utilizing this revolutionary awareness, has allowed her to transform communication within self and within all other types of relationships. This is the hidden key to acceptance. And this is her mission to share. Welcome, Dr. Heather.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Well, I'm so excited for this conversation. What is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
I would say it was after my mom killed herself, and I was at home with my dad. I was in my junior year. I was very good at school. I applied to 2 colleges, which I paid for myself, Sarah Lawrence and UCLA, and I was accepted to both.
Wow.
And my father said he would pay for UCLA as long as I did business, but he would not pay for any other school or any other major. And at that time in my life, I really needed to find myself an expression and creativity after having lived with my childhood. So I told him, okay. And so I went off to New York after high school on my own with a $10,000 student loan debt back in the 80s and did theater and was disowned for that decision for a period of time. I would say that was the beginning of me feeling pretty darn brave in this world to take the risks that I felt I needed to. Not necessarily if they were the wisest, because sometimes maybe they weren't, but they were the ones that I needed to find what I was to find and to become who I was to become. And it was hard, but I'm very proud of myself that I did allow myself to grow and become and realize I can do it. And I also can come back and say, could we renegotiate this one? Could we talk about this other than black and white? Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I'm sorry about your mother.
Thank you. She is the reason I am who I am, though. So without all that I went through, without all that I learned from her, without the experience of the contrast of being healthy, not healthy, here, not here, I would not be who I am. So I don't regret a moment of it. Would never want to live it again, though. But I don't regret a moment of it because it was unbelievably profound and created who I am. She completely helped me create who I am. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So what took you on your journey of becoming a psychotherapist? Did this naturally fall into place from your experiences?
A little bit, because I felt my role in life was to be my mom's caretaker or to keep her alive or to try to be her joy. I was naturally drawn toward helping others and caring for others and being a camp counselor and a babysitter and all things like that. I really wanted to do theater, though, very much so. And I was good at it. And I was doing conservatories and I was doing reps and I was working a lot. And then when I got out of college, all of a sudden I realized at 6'1", there isn't a market for an ingenue. And for some reason, I had never thought about that. All the places I had gone to school worked with it because I could always play grandmother, Mother Earth, the strong aunt, the German Frau. So there was always a role for me. And I struggled. I didn't know what to do. I was working in a group home because I loved working with youth. I was auditioning all the time. That went on for a couple of years, got into deep dive of therapy to figure out really what is my path. And one day God slammed me over the side of my head, which he does, I feel, to me. And he said, instead of pretending to be someone who you are not, how about you help people be who they are to be?
Oh, wow.
And I just went, yes.
Yeah.
And so I went to 3 different schools and I said, I have an undergrad in theater. My lifetime has been psych. I put myself through my undergrad and I'm not doing it again. So I need you to give me a scholarship. And 2 of the schools, really good schools, UCLA and Pepperdine, both said, you're in, but no scholarship. And then Ria Khan, an amazing school, sat down with me. The president sat down with me and I said, I will do anything. I will clean your shoes. I will be your security guard. I'll wash the toilets. I'll do anything. I am to be a therapist. I don't have the money to pay for it. What can we do? And he said, no one's ever asked me this before. And I said, there's always a first. And he said, be the best therapist you can be. And I got a full-ride scholarship for my master's. And then I had the best internship you could ever have because I applied to 100 places to find the best one. And it was amazing. What I would say is it's been guided. My career has 100% been guided. Maybe not fallen into my lap, but I put myself in the positions, like this podcast, I put myself in the positions to be present, to offer, to share. And from that, sometimes it's unbelievably blessed. So I just keep offering for those golden moments where you meet someone or you change someone's life or someone says, I really want to do this with you. Those divine moments of connection.
Absolutely loving them. So that
yes,
absolutely leads into my next question. So tell me more about spirituality, grief, and loss.
Such a beautiful, beautiful concept. I think it's unfortunate that we don't embrace death with an incredible amount of honor, respect, appreciation, and gratitude. I know how hard it is to not have someone on this physical plane that you want. My mom, my whole family. I'm a widow. So my husband too, I had a miscarriage. And you are to walk through those in the way that you are to walk through those. I think though, if we were to look at the naturalness of death, like life, then when we don't feel that we should be the one to control it or to decide it, it opens us up to a beautiful place of really allowing ourselves to feel what it is that you are to feel. And a lot of that is that pain, that sadness, that wishing it wasn't now. And I also find when you allow yourself to open up to that truth of, I really am not in control. I really don't get to choose some of these very important things like, will you be in my life? Then it can take you to a very personal, beautiful walk with your center, with your source, with your God, with your spirit, with whatever it is that is your higher power or your center and yourself. We really are in this world as us. We are our own person, and each person's walk is that as well. And when we choose to celebrate that fact and to celebrate the uniqueness of ourselves and to accept, we're going to have all sorts of wobbles and little idiosyncrasies, but that's part of who we are. It's part of why we needed to be here on this world of 8 billion people. You needed to be here because nobody else could speak or share or offer or give or create or think what you think. I find that extraordinary. And so I find that tying into death, the creation of who you are in the lifetime that you have to do that. And what does that mean to you? And what is the purpose that you put upon that for yourself? And what is the calling of love and community that comes from that place of realizing we are all extraordinary, and it's up to us to decide if we enjoy the journey. It's also up to us to decide if we're going to care for anybody else or even ourselves. And I just find that the older I get, I find it to be such an odd thing to not want to. Why would I not want to enjoy this life? Why would I not want to love you? It just feels so much better to do so. Why would I not want to? Doesn't mean I'm going to think everything you do is amazing or even right, but I'm not you. So who am I to judge? I think there's no room for that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Definitely, yes. There are many hidden keys about acceptance, especially in loss. How can one start to embrace that? Because it's an emotional time. And like you said, we do not want that person not to be here physically.
Well, I think the answer is in the question. There are keys. This happened in your life. You get to decide what you make of that and what you do with that. And it either can be, my life has been destroyed and now it will be horrible. Or it can be, I don't yet know how to do this. I don't yet know what this feels like, but I will uncover what that is. And I remember saying to my children shortly after their father passed, I don't know why your father was taken away, but I do know this. Whoever the three of us and individually are to be now, we could not be that if your father was here, because otherwise he would be here. He hasn't passed over for us to be destroyed. He's passed over because he has passed over. And now it's up to us to decide, who are we now differently? And so when you come to grief, when you come to loss, when you say that, I don't want to let go of what I was there, you also don't have to. And this is a place that people wrestle with me in my office, but they also want so desperately to grasp. You haven't lost anything moving forward. You have everything that you had. All the memories are there. None of them are taken away. The difficulty is you're not going to be making a new memory on the physical plane with that physical person. Now, for some of your listeners, because I've listened to several of your podcasts and they will resonate with this, and those who don't, just let it be. I'm a little airy fairy because I live in California. And then just, go get a cup of coffee for a moment and come back.
Perfect.
Yeah. You do have the opportunity to experience them now. You do. You do. Their love is all around you. Their energy is all around you. If and when you allow yourself to open up to that, you will experience them. But it's not going to be in the same form because it's not to be. It's not to be. I love what Eckhart Tolle says. He says he's not worried about death at all because he so lives in his spiritual being that his physical being is simply the vehicle. It's a shell. It's a lovely shell. We have lovely shells, but our true essence is our spirit. And we know that. We know that, but yet we cling to the physical because that's what we can see. That's what we can touch. That's what our world calls us to do. But if you look at all the religions, if you look at all the faiths, they go so far beyond what is physically walking on this earth. They go to the knowingness. They go to unconditional love. They go to divine light and wisdom and ancestry, heritage, legacy, messages. They go to all of that. And I believe death can open you to that so much more strongly because you long for it.
Yes.
You long for it. And moving into that place of not simply staying, simply is not the right word, not horrifically staying in the deep hurting and aching, but opening yourself a little bit to, I really want to experience you now, what that will do. I had a really, really interesting experience with my mom. I really wanted her to come in dreams. I really did. I was 16. I really wanted her to come in dreams or show up in my bedroom. I just wanted her to come, and she didn't, and she didn't, and she didn't, and she didn't. And I didn't know why. And when Ted passed, I felt him the next day strongly.
Wow.
And I continue to. 40 years after my mom had killed herself, all of a sudden, and I forgave her immediately because her life was horrific. I'm truly surprised she lived as long as she did. And I know she did a lot of that for my sister and I. And I'm grateful that she was willing to stay I hate to say this, but to stay long enough, even though it was so torturous for us to have as much as we had, because it really did create my foundation. And I know she knows that. So 40 years later, one day out of the blue, I felt called to say, Mom, I honor your decision. And I went, what a weird thing to say. But I said it twice. Nothing changed within me. All I can say is I felt something change around me, if you want to, in the atmosphere. 3 days later, I felt her come to me, sobbing, was in a meditation sound bath. And she said, I did not want to leave you, but I could not stay. And I sobbed. And of course I knew that. I knew that. But it was interesting. I don't know what that did, but it did something. So I'm just going to say this. If you feel so called to speak out, to reach out, do. Ted's cell phone was disconnected, of course. For some reason, 8 years later, the number has never been given to anybody. Very odd. So I text him. Some days I'm going to get somebody who's going to say, who the hell are you? 8 years of messages. Dear God, I don't want these photos, and I don't care about Mac won this award and you'd be so proud, and don't call me honey bunny. But for 8 years, nothing. And I text him, and I love doing it.
So Dr. Heather, tell me more about signs from our loved ones, like the obvious ones are butterflies, robins, the old saying, pennies from heaven. Tell me more about that, because I'm intrigued. I do see them, and I truly believe they are our loved ones.
Oh, I agree. And you'll know if you, when your eye is drawn, there'll be 50 birds, and then you'll see one and you'll be like, you're important. Sometimes I don't know who it is. And I'll say, I see you. I'm not sure who you are. And sometimes I'll get a message. The place where I really recognized it the most strongly was the day after Ted passed. A very dear friend of ours said, you need to go to a movie and just get out of your head. And I thought, oh dear God, that's the last thing I want to do. But he said, for the kids, Heather, just trust me. I'm like, fine. So we went to the movie. Who knows what I was watching? There was a screen and I was in a movie theater and they were there. That's all I remember. And after who knows how long, I just decided I can't do this anymore. I can't just sit here anymore. So I said, I'm going to go out into the luge. Don't need to come with me. I'll be absolutely fine. Enjoy the movie. I'll be there when you're done. My daughter came out with me and we were sitting cross-legged and just in the depth of grief and sobbing and exhausted. And I had my hand on my knee, like resting on your knee, like you would. And I felt an energy really strongly. If I do this right now, I can feel it. I feel it in my hand a lot. And it felt really strong. And in my head, I'm thinking, Ted, and I'm looking at my hand and it's buzzing and it's getting warm and I feel a presence above it. I look over at my daughter. She's doing the exact same thing. So I said to her, sweetheart, I don't want to scare you. I said, look at my hand. And she did. And I said, is Daddy holding your hand? And she said, Mom. I said, sweetheart, look at my hand. Daddy's holding my hand. I said, do you want to do something? Do you want to put your hand over mine but not touch? And we can hold Daddy's hand together. And we did. That moment opened me up, which is probably why what happened with my mom happened with my mom. That is why what happened with my mom happened with my mom. It opened me up to be so much more aware and invite. And so I have had, oh my goodness, so many things happen. There was a Christmas ornament that Ted and I gave to each other with a lovebird and a little bucket, a little wishing well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the year after he passed, we cleaned up the whole house. We went through everything. I repacked all the Christmas ornaments, got new boxes, made everything lovely, got rid of all the stuff that was broken. And every time I'd put out the wishing well, I'd always think, gosh, it's so sad that that bucket got lost. And it got lost before Ted died, like eons ago, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Stan and I are unwrapping the Christmas. We have a lot of Christmas ornaments. It's in 2 boxes. One of them has the most of them. We're almost done. And she goes, Mom, we don't need to open the second box. And I said, no, we need to. There's something in there. And she's like, the tree's pretty full. I'm like, I'm going to go through the whole box. There's something in there. And she's like, okay. Next to the last ornament, and every single ornament, I'm like, no. Next to the last ornament, I open it up. It's the wishing well. And I say, gosh, I wish we hadn't lost that bucket. Last ornament, it's the bucket.
The bucket.
Been gone for maybe 8 years. Changed the toilet paper, changed the box, everything. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Ted's mom was in the hospital one year at Christmas and bought 3 birds for her 3 children, Christmas ornaments. One for Scott, Allison, and Ted. Ted's disappeared years ago, and she felt so sad about that. The same day as I found, or Ted brought, the bucket, Georgianne had 2 boxes of Christmas ornaments. In the second box, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, was Ted's bird. When I told her, Mom, you're never going to believe what happened to me, she said, you're never going to believe what happened to me. And I said, well, Ted is really coming through. What I also do is when my clients share with me how their loved ones come through, I notice. I have a client where it's absolutely pennies. And so when I see pennies on the ground, I take a photo and send it to her. I have another where it's owls. So if I see something with an owl, I'll take a photo and I'll send it to her. And it's just a way. And then what you'll find, the more you tap into it, the more you'll know. You'll just have feelings. I was talking with someone I was coaching the other day. It was our first session. It was about losing her mom. And after the phone call, I heard, tell her turkey. And I thought, I don't really know this woman. I don't want her to think I'm an oddball. Yeah. And I thought, come on, Heather, you're pushing it now. Like, no. Next day I got it again. So I reached out to her and I said, this might sound really strange. I might be really off. For some reason, I'm being prompted to tell you the word turkey. And I think it's the bird and not the country. Does that have any resonance for you with your mom? She texts back, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you've said that. My mom had cancer, had to become a vegetarian, was not allowed to eat any meat, but she loved turkey. She made one exception, and that was she ate turkey on Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And she said, what's the significance? And I said, she wants you to know she's here. She wants you to recognize that she's here and you're looking for her. And so that was a little prompt that she thought you would hear through me. Now just hear it through you. But here's where it gets beautiful. I said, I didn't tell you it the first day because I thought it was odd. I had to tell you it the second day. What were you doing right before you got the text? And she said, oh my goodness. The reason she called me, she'd been seeing a hawk in her yard. She wanted to know what the hawk meant. We had talked about that in our session. And she said, I went out into the yard to find the hawk. And I said, he wasn't there, was he? And she said, how do you know? And I'm like, I just know. She said, no, he wasn't. And she said, and I asked, hawk, where are you? And then she said, never mind. What I really want is mom. Mom, where are you? When she came back into the house and looked at her phone, my message was there. Well, actually, let me correct that. Her mother's message was there. So when you open yourself up to it, and she could have said nothing. She could have said there's nothing about turkey. And I would have been like, okay. It only matters if it resonates. And if it doesn't, that's okay. You'll know if it's for you. You'll know if it's not. And that's okay.
Is there any way we can open up more or start to open up to connect with our past loved ones?
Absolutely. By doing that, by saying, how could this happen? How could we connect? How can I feel your love and your presence now if that is something that I want? And for some people, absolutely not. Absolutely. They do not want that. They think it's not right. They think it's unholy. And I am an absolute believer that you are to take care of yourself in every way you are to take care of yourself. But if feeling the essence, the energy, the love of someone who has passed over would bless you, and if you allow it to be a divine light and love and all that is good and all that is beautiful, to me, I find that lovely. So I just simply say, I'm here. And I'm excited to know or share or feel anything that you choose to share with me. Help me see. And the more you allow that to happen, the more it'll be. I've had a possibility. I don't even know how far back it went, very far back, where I've always had a knowingness. That's all I can say. I hear from God, but it's really just a knowingness. I have a TikTok that just went viral where like I did what happens to me. And I just say, my eyes go up here. So I call it my God spot. And I just say, know this. And something comes through of love. So with my clients, I'll get a feeling and I'll say, okay, know this. And they start to laugh and they're like, okay, I've got my pen out. What is she going to say? And it's something beautiful and profound. And it's not something that I need of them. Whether I'm bringing in a message from God or whether I'm keying into my client's message that they need for themselves, it's very much the same to me. And so if you believe that we are indeed guided, if you believe we are indeed protected, if you believe we are here to experience and share love, then to me, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
And why wouldn't you connect?
I don't know why you wouldn't want to. And there's certain places that for some people resonate a lot more. You need to give yourself space and time to hear or to feel or to see. It can't be so busy and crazy. Meditation is a great place. Massage or sound baths or anything with energy healing, of course, is a great place. Any place of worship, church, a temple is a great place. Nature is a great place. Some people going to the gravesite is a very profound place. Just allow yourself, and you'll know the person you're wanting to connect with. So my mom, it's always the beach.
Okay.
That's where I feel her the most. So yeah, just go to those places or think on those places and just say, I just want to feel you more now. They won't always come through, but oftentimes they will.
Yes. Oh. Are fairies real and are they like spiritual guides? Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. And so I 100% need to own, I came from a mother who was insane. And what I say is colorful is just another word for crazy. So to me, yes, because, I'm going to get emotional, because that's where my mom lived. She lived in fairyland. And so we looked for 4-leaf clovers in our yard. We made tea parties for the fairies.
Wow.
Oh, they were beautiful. They're beautiful. And, using thread spools and little pieces of lace for the tablecloth. And we'd leave little crumbs of cookies and, we'd use a little pot and put a little bit of tea inside. And it was magical and beautiful. And sometimes we'd wake up and there'd be presents. There'd be flowers there, things that a feather, a leaf. When the rain would dance on the car hood, my mom called it rain fairies. And so the reason why I know fairies are real is because inside of me is a fairy. I am partially fairy. And if people like that quality in me, they'll see it in a lot of my work. It's my joy. It's my sparkle. It's my hope. It's my message. It's finding that place that ignites you and inspires you and lights you up. And to me, that is indeed fairy. And to me, that is indeed magical. I think it's the touch of love. It's the touch of God. It's the touch of all-knowingness. It's the touch of miracles. I think that's very much alive in all of us if we allow it to come through. It's like somebody who resonates with being the brave knight or the princess or a mermaid. We all have places in our psyche that feel like a story that was told. People will have an affinity to the 1800s or the Depression or Egypt or China. You'll just say, I could have lived at that time. And I don't know, just by the fact that you would say that, my brain goes to all sorts of places. Interesting that you think you could have.
Yeah, that's just absolutely beautifully put. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your greatest desire is to support one in drawing closer to your true self, inner wisdom, and your purpose. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. I think we're all here to help each other if we decide to become as much as we are to become. And I know there's a lot of reparenting and relearning that we go through. And we can get a little bit stuck in the frustration of that. But if you let yourself go to the other side, I'm called the Reframe Queen in Orange County. And this is why. If you go to the other side, that's beautiful. Oh, I can learn and be and embrace aspects that were not from my childhood. Oh, if I don't stay just on this street, I can experience this street. And maybe there's parts of both streets that I enjoy. Maybe I just want to stay on my street. So when you open yourself up to the truth that this life is for you to decide who you are and what you do and who you're with and what the experience will be for you, then to me, it's a beautiful gift when you get to be a little part of somebody else's. I'm so honored, like that one phone call with that beautiful, beautiful woman to help her with her mom. It was glorious. I'll remember that the rest of my life. That moment at the movie theater with my daughter.
Yes.
I will treasure that moment the rest of my life. The little tea parties.
Definitely.
So there's a place of, do you allow yourself to have the people around you be a blessing? And the ones that are the hardest to be around, the ones who are the hardest to love, are your best teachers. Because they're showing you where you fight back. They're showing you where you're possibly judgmental or not loving. And I know we don't want those experiences in our life, but those are really the ones that help us choose, will we become even more loving? Or will we say, no, I'll only be around people who see me as loving, and this is as loving as I will be. I don't necessarily say, oh, everybody who wants to have problems with me, get in line. But I've also learned to say, when someone shows up and has a challenge with me or a struggle with me, it's a beautiful opportunity for me to love them in their truth and not need to deny it or denounce it, but to simply say, oh, could you share more? So I have a little bit better of an experience of what you feel and what you think. I do want to know. That turns into, a global embrace if we allow it to be.
Just love it. Absolutely love it. What resources do you recommend, daily tips, tools to anyone that wants to connect and understand more about their own loss and grief?
Well, first off, it's important that you honor the places where you feel most called to. So I can share the ones that I am, and I can share the ones that are common. But then there's also the place of finding your own walks, especially in nature, because it allows you to move in your path. It allows you to move and see different things than what is before you immediately in the processing of what you're doing. Very helpful. Meditation, prayer, gratefulness and thankfulness for what there is. For some people, they really need to be around others. For some people, they really need times alone. Journaling can be very, very helpful. Getting in water is very important, because we are so much of water. And because water is so healing, you want to have your feet barefoot on the ground, on dirt, sand, or grass. You want to have the ionization of the earth.
Wow.
Holding you to, you are still here. And that energy that comes through is blocked by our shoes, and it's blocked by the cement to a certain extent. It still comes through to a certain extent. You know how it feels when you walk barefoot at the beach? There's a different feel. You know how it feels when you
Yes.
walk on fresh grass. There's a different feel. And the earth's vibration, the earth's ionization is very close to acceptance and love. And so the more you can let yourself be in that, it'll make it a little less hard to deal with what you're dealing with. And then of course you want to watch yourself for, are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you choosing to use drugs or alcohol? There's some things to be mindful of, because you're going to want to disappear. You're going to want to detach, and that's okay to a certain extent, but be mindful of how you do it. If you embrace the fact that this process is for you to come to places within yourself that you have not yet known, because you do not yet know how to live without possibly that person in your life, you will figure it out. But there's a newness to you now. Whenever there's a big shift, you move, a new relationship, a new baby, a new job, there's a little shift of, oh, well, who am I now in this different reality? Be really gentle with yourself if you're going through grief and loss. It's tough, very tough, when you're dropped down to your knees and your reality has changed from what you wished it would be. But we also do something to ourselves, which is part of the problem. And we all do it, which is you dream and you come up with plans and you daydream, and that's important. That's how your life moves on. But there's also a place to realize, it might not happen. When Ted died, my son wasn't even in high school yet. And so the plan was he'd be there through all of that in college, and then boyfriends and girlfriends and marriage and grandbabies and me being old and 99 and, ending our life here. And all of those thoughts, that didn't happen. And that's a hard part too. And I think we don't recognize that. Not only have you lost the person, and there's so much pain in that, the physical pain, the emotional pain, the psychic pain, definitely the physical, emotional pain. But there's also the stories that you've told yourself, and you believe that is who you are. And now it's not. And so there's a lot of picking up the pen again and saying, well, who am I now? And how do I take this pain and this hurt and allow it to be part of my journey in a way that can help me grow, help me become more in love with myself, and hopefully a more beautiful person on this earth for others. To me, that's important. It might not be to all, but for me, that's hugely important for my reason to be on this earth. It's to bring joy, love, understanding, fairy dust.
Loving that one.
Here.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, everything you're saying, Dr. Heather. Absolutely beautiful.
I think life is a beautiful love story if we allow it to be. And love stories have pain and they have tragedy. That's what creates love. Everything is contrast. If you don't know lack, you don't know full. You have to know hungry to know satiated. You have to know dark to know light. You have to know love to know loss. So it's recognizing that, and then letting yourself move a little bit out of the part of it that feels so hard, and letting yourself hold on a little bit to the part that feels better. Part of the reason I missed you so much was because I was so loved by you. Part of the reason why I so wish you were here is I so loved our Saturday morning walks or whatever it is. Let yourself remember the good and not just get fixated.
Yes.
And we get so caught on what we've lost. When Ted passed, God gave me a message and he said, I have not so much as taken away. I have moved you. You're no longer there. You're here. And am I with you? Does that make sense to you? And I responded to God, hell no, you've totally taken away. Come on. And he said, in his lovely, cheeky way with me, you're just not ready for it yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, thanks, God. But it took me 6 months. The day I met Ted, God put him on my plate. Every day. Almost 25 years. Ted. I haven't so much as taken away. 1 minute 1 minute. 1 minute of my entire lifetime. I'm 59 years old. I lost Ted in 1 minute. He hasn't so much as taken away, and he has moved me. But what I realized is I would rather look at having Ted as a blessing.
Yes.
And a gift.
Absolutely. Yes.
And a glorious, glorious part of my life. I'd rather remember that than focus, where are you now? I don't want to do now without you. It's been another year. I had a funny thing happen. I write poetry sometimes. And I wrote a beautiful poem for the anniversary of my mom's 38th anniversary of her death. It's published. It's beautiful. It's called 38 Years of Days. And then I wanted to write one that was really profound and powerful for the 40th. And I was saying things like, have I cried as many tears in the 40 years as there were of the rain and the 40 days of the flood? And have I beaten my chest as much as they did in the desert? And God slapped me across my face, and but gently, he always slaps me with love. Never hurt. He never hurts me. He just wakes me up in my tracks. And I'm so glad he does. And he said, oh, come on now. Really? Is this what you're going to do at 51 and 62 and 78 and 93? And I said, yeah.
You got a point.
And he said, how about you celebrate the years that you did have?
Yes.
Instead of celebrating the ones that you don't. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm celebrating 40 years of not having my mother instead of the 16 that I did. Changed my mind frame. I'm not saying you don't miss them. Of course you do. But are you celebrating the death, or are you celebrating the life? And it's a choice.
Wow.
And you got to ask yourself, which one do I want to do? Either are okay. Just know they're going to feel really differently. So you want to choose the one that feels right for you. Some people want to hold on to what was now and won't change the room, and will never have another dog or whatever it might be. And if that's what serves you, do it. It's up to you to decide. This is your life. You got to honor how you were here, and everyone does it differently.
Yes. So where can the listeners find you online? What's your website, Dr. Heather?
So my website is drheatherbrowne.com. So www.drheatherbrowne.com. And if you go on there, you'll find all my social media. I'm on TikTok and YouTube and all the different things. I have a newsletter that I send out, which has information and support and encouragement for walking this journey of relationship and love and self-care and grief and loss. And I'd be honored to have you join if you'd like. I offer coaching. I offer therapy. I also have workshops. So if something resonated with you and you want to reach out to me, I'd be honored to have you reach out and pop me a message, or see if there's some way that I can bless you beyond this. And I'll also have a little gift for all your readers, if they would like it as well, that they can have, just as a thank you for taking this time with me.
Excellent. And I'll put all your links in the show notes so they can connect with you directly.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your courageous journey and your deep, insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, I know you have helped so many others. Dr. Heather Browne.
Thank you. It's been an absolute treat and honor to be with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So my final question to you is, we are all about create the courage to be fearless here. What is your definition of courage?
For me, the definition of courage is to allow yourself to continually become all it is that you desire, all it is that you dream, and to know there's always one little bit more beyond who you are yet. So to keep letting it transform and become.